go all the way around. Look at that Bullitt. Looking nice and clean. Man, love this dark Highland green paint. Hey guys, welcome to another video in Spencer's Garage. Today I am working on my newly purchased 2008 Mustang Bullitt. It is very low mileage, but it sat for quite a long time in a older gentleman's garage, and I don't know, I highly doubt the fluids have ever been changed, and just from the age, they degrade and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and change all the fluids. I've already done the engine oil, the power steering, the transmission fluid, and I drained and filled the coolant. So now what's left is, well, I have to take off the wheels and do the brake fluid. I'm going to flush all the brakes, but also I have to do the rear end, or the rear differential fluid. So here I have some Ford Motorcraft synthetic rear axle lubricant. I will try to link these in the description. I have an Amazon affiliate link, so if you want to purchase these, I have these here. So you'll need about, well, it's the factory service manual calls for 2.1 quarts, so I have a little bit of extra laying around, but I had to buy 2 new quarts. So 2.1 quarts of the 75W40 is what I'm going to use. Of course, the Ford Motorcraft. And then also you want to be able, or you should also buy the additive friction modifier. So, this is 4 ounces. So it's 2.1 quarts plus the 4 ounces of the friction modifier. And then also you can use RTV as the sealant for the rear diff cover, but I find that this gasket, this is called a lube blocker gasket. I'll see if I can find this on Amazon. If I do, then I'll put the link in the description. But anyways, this is what I'm going to use instead of some RTV, just so it's cleaner and quicker. They say that this is reusable, but this is just a faster way for me. So that's what I'm going to use. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started here. So here is underneath my Mustang. As I said, this is very low mileage, very well kept. And here you can see the rear diff cover. These are 13mm bolts. By the way, check it out. There you go, 373 gears in the 2008 Bullitt. So anyways, let's go ahead and get a drain pan underneath here, and then I'll get my 13mm out, and we're gonna undo all the bolts except for the very top one up here. We're just gonna slightly loosen that one. We're not gonna take it out all the way. And then we can go from there. Look how clean this rear differential is. It's like new in here. All right, but the car's been sitting for 16 years and oils degrade, so we're gonna change out these fluids. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my drain pan under here. Then we'll get our flathead and slightly pry on this all the way around to try to get the seal broken loose. There we go. Okay, so now we're gonna attempt to take off this cover. There we go. All right. So even though the oil looks pretty clean, you can see, well, it may be a little hard to see, but there is some definite black in this fluid right here. So this is what I'm trying to get rid of. This is, you can see on the paper towel there, it's all black. So, you know, I'm sure just wear and tear. I don't know if my camera's picking it up, but there's quite a bit of dark oil, you know, quite a bit of dark oil on the bottom there. Quite a bit of, you see that? Look at that. So, glad I'm changing it. And whenever this drips a little bit more, I'm actually going to get a paper towel in there and just kind of scoop the oil at the bottom of the pumpkin and move it forward, just so we can try to get all of this drained out of there. So overall, seeing that black stuff in there, that is giving me some peace of mind that I am changing this out. Very good. Putting some fresh Ford Motorcraft oil in it. All right, whenever I wipe this, just look at all that gunk on there. So I'm going to thoroughly clean this off. I'm first doing it with just a shop rag, and then I'm going to take a plastic razor blade and I'm going to make sure I clean all of this old RTV off of the back of this diff cover, and also on the face of the diff itself. I'm going to clean that off with a plastic razor blade and some brake clean. Plastic, remember, you want to use a plastic razor blade so you don't gouge this metal. I'll put a link in the description to some plastic razor blades as well. Okay guys, so here is the rear differential cover. I took my plastic razor blade and I scraped off the edges. I went over that several times. I also used some brake clean. This takes quite a bit of time. I will say it is pretty tedious work, so make sure that you have time and just be patient with it. That is another reason why I am going with this lube locker gasket, because if I change the diff fluid again, you know, I won't have to deal with this RTV mess. So anyways, this is very clean. This took me quite a long time, so I actually will probably still go over it with some Scotch-Brite, you know, scuff pads. And let me show you what I have here underneath on the rear differential. Okay, so here's the rear differential. I have also went over it with the plastic razor blade quite a few times. And you can see I have this towel over the actual gears in the rear differential. This is so I don't get any debris, you know, that we don't want any debris falling on the gears or inside the differential or anything like that. So I'm using a clean, brand new microfiber cloth. You could use, you know, a plastic bag, a towel, a paper towel, whatever you want to use. And I would just recommend covering these gears while you're cleaning up this mating surface. By Scotch-Brite pads, by the way, this is what I mean. Just a rough scuffing pad. This one happens to be 3M final stripping pads, so this is what I have. And by the way, I think I mentioned this before, but I will have some of these red plastic razor blades available in the description if you want to check those out on Amazon. Gets that last bit of the RTV off. Just lightly going over it. Make sure you have that towel tucked in there. I'm just going to hit it with some brake clean. Go all the way around. I can take this off. Take it to a clean side. Just going to wipe it off with the towel. Just clean the mating surfaces. Alright guys, so next I am preparing the bolts to be put back on the differential. So you can see this one has no RTV on it, whereas this one has leftover RTV on it. So you can see the difference there. And all I'm doing is just taking a simple wire brush and I am just brushing the threads and trying to get these threads clean and all that RTV off as much as possible. So there you go, just kind of comes off like that. And then before I install these, I'll hit them with a little bit of brake clean, and then that'll be it for cleaning up the bolts. Alright guys, so as you can see, I have the mating surface of the rear diff all cleaned up. I sprayed it with brake clean. It's all ready to go. Smoothed it out with some Scotch-Brite. So now let me show you what I have over here. Okay. All right. Well, there's one Bullitt wheel, but right next to it we have, I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a up close. This is called, I believe it's called a lube locker. Anyways, I wanted to show you a up close view of this gasket. It's pretty cool. It took me quite a long time to take off all of the remaining RTV. By the way, look how clean I got this. Nice and smooth, looking good. This is the bottom part right here. Based off of that, this right here matches up with that. So, and then I will put one of the bolts. By the way, I cleaned these up with some brake clean and, you know, got all the old RTV off of them and stuff like that. So these are nice and clean, all ready to go right there. I'll put the top one in first, and then I will mount it to the rear diff. Look at that Bullitt. Looking nice and clean. Man, love this dark Highland green paint. Alright guys, so there is a specific order that you want to tighten all of these 10 bolts, and I will put that order on the screen, a special sequence. And I have already tightened these down. I haven't torqued them to spec, but I got them nice and snug. And now I'm going to go ahead and torque them to spec. These are 13 millimeter and they are torqued down to 33 foot-pounds. All right, and that is the proper torque sequence of the rear diff cover. All right guys, now that we have our diff cover torqued down to spec, now I need to show you where the fill plug is. By the way, it is a good idea that you take out the fill plug first, just to make sure that you can actually get it undone before you drain all of your fluid out. I usually follow that rule, but I guess I was kind of in a rush in this job. But anyways, you want to undo this one first before you undo the whole entire cover. So here it is. You can see the drive shaft is back there. And then here's this little wing on the back of the pumpkin here. And right there is our fill plug. So all you're going to do is get your 3-inch 3/8 extension and a ratchet. And we're going to take that fill plug out. There is very limited room in here. So as you can see, I have my 3/8 extension on my ratchet here. Gonna have to work between it, the differential, and this exhaust pipe right here. So that's what we're working with. Oh, there we go. Got it to move. Right, once you have it loose with the ratchet, we can just take the fill plug out. There we go. I believe this fill plug is magnetic, and you can see there is a little bit of junk on there. Let's go ahead and get a white paper towel and take that off. All right, I've got a little bit on my finger, just holding the thing. Yeah, it's a little bit of gunk. I mean, there's no metal particles or anything. It's just all, you know, just kind of gunk on there. That's typical. Every transmission or rear end fluid change, there's always that stuff on there. All right, guys. So here is the fluid that I'm using, the Ford Motorcraft. and then of course the additive friction modifier. The one I'm using is 75W140. So I already have all these bottles open, and I'm just going to go ahead and fill half of this in one bottle and then half in the other. I think that will bring them up to the very top. So I'm going to put that in there. It does take 2.1, so I do have an old bottle laying around, so I will, you know, top it off with a 0.1, you know what I mean? So here is also the pump that I will be using. This just screws on to the top of the quart bottle right here, and this one is a wide. You see, this one actually has one for a narrow quart bottle and a larger, you know, opening right here for the quart bottle. So basically this just fits in here. It has the appropriate straw, and then you just pump it in. So this is the method I'm going to use to do it. Alright guys, now that I have the tube inserted into the fill hole, now we just pump this. It's really thick oil. I did shake the quart bottle, by the way, just to try to, you know, pre-mix that friction modifier in there. But yeah, now we just pump several times and we'll get that 2.1 quarts in there. After you fill it in with 2.1 quarts, I am going to torque this down to 25 foot-pounds. Of course, I hand tightened it at first. Now I have my torque wrench set to 25 foot-pounds. Then we're going to go ahead and spray this area with brake clean so we can keep this area clean, just in case, you know, in the future, if we ever need to detect any leaks, we know that we left it clean. Alright guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. If this video helped you out in any way, please give me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hopefully I'll have some more videos on my 2008 Mustang Bullitt. Thanks for watching.